Today I'm going to talk about Happiness Bastards. This is the 10th studio album by the Black Crowes, released on March 15th, 2024 through Silver Arrow Records. The album was produced by Jay Joyce. It's the band's first album since their 2019 reformation and the first album of new material since 2009's Before the Frost Until the Freeze. So let's find out, do they still have it? First, I'll do a quick history. I'll talk about some of my personal experiences listening to this band. I'll talk about the album. I'll go through the tracks and I'll give my final thoughts and score. So let's get into this. I discovered this band with their debut called Shake Your Money Maker. It was interesting because I was listening to a lot of metal at the time, which was back in 1990. I was also just starting to learn how to play the guitar. I think that was one factor that helped me get into this band. I remember learning She Talks to Angels and learning about different guitar tunings. This was not a metal band though. They played blues rock, although for some reason they appealed to a lot of metal fans. They even played the Monsters of Rock tour, opening for bands like Metallica, AC/DC, and Queensryche. And by the way, the footage is from Moscow, but that's what I found. But anyway, after this first album, they released the Southern Harmony and Musical Companion, and I thought that album was actually a little better than the debut. Then after that, they released Amorica in 1994, and at that point, I kind of lost interest in them. I thought it was because I was really into industrial and grunge bands at that point in time. I know it was a popular album, but I was not into the band anymore, and since then, I had forgotten about the band, and to be honest, I haven't listened to anything they released since then. But now it's 2024. I have a moderately successful YouTube channel dedicated to music, so it's time for me to rediscover the Black Crowes. The album has 10 songs. It's about 38 minutes long. I listened to it a few times in preparation for this review, and they sound just like I remember them. They still have that blues rock influence with a big Rolling Stones influence, in addition to showing their love for 60s bands like the Yardbirds and 10 Years After. The album opens with Bedside Manners. This song is very upbeat and has the sound I remember them from. They still have a Rolling Stones influence. The song has a fast-paced drum beat. It also has some bluesy guitar riffs and piano playing. This is followed by Rats and Clowns. This one has a cool guitar intro played with some dirty distortion. This is another upbeat song with a nice boogie rock type of sound. So far, the first two songs on the album have been very upbeat and energetic. The song is a big chorus, and you can hear the backing singers as well. Just like the previous song, it takes off with a guitar solo. The song's about 3.5 minutes long, and it's both energetic and enjoyable. Cross Your Fingers is next, and this is where I was able to hear some of those acoustic guitars that I was looking forward to. But this section was very brief in the intro. They followed this up with a funky guitar riff played with some distortion. This was probably my favorite guitar riff on the album. I also like the use of the organ sounds. This was one of the singles, but I thought it was one of the best songs because it has a very memorable guitar riff. This is the third song, and so far in this album, everything has been very energetic. But there were also some peaks and valleys, such as the use of keyboards, which had a slight psychedelic sound. I remember that this band was influenced by psychedelic rock from the 60s, and they kind of show it on this song. Wanting and Waiting is the next song. This one had a bit of like an alternative rock sound. It was like, you hear that in the main guitar riff, and I'm not saying they were changing the sound, but they also had that classic blues rock sound, and it was another very memorable guitar riff. We're 4 songs into the album. This one is also very upbeat, and it's a very energetic song. This was also the first single, and it has everything you would expect, such as the keyboard melodies and the backing singers. Next is Wilted Rose, and this one features country singer Lainey Wilson. This is the song I was waiting for. It had the soft acoustic guitars that were very reminiscent of some of their older material. I was reminding me of some of the songs like Thorn in My Pride from the Southern Harmony album. That's actually also one of my favorite songs from this band. The song has a lot of backing instruments such as keyboards, and the bass guitar can be heard up front. Lainey Wilson does not have much presence on the song. Her vocals are mostly in the background. I also liked how the song picks up with some energy in the second half of the song where they go right into the guitar solo. I heard a lot of 60s rock influence in this section of the song. The chorus was also memorable, and I think the song is an instant classic. We're moving into the second half of the album, and we have Dirty Cold Sun. This one brings back that energetic, bluesy Rolling Stones type of blues rock. I know this was an established band. I try not to make comparisons to past bands, but I can imagine Mick Jagger singing this song. I like the raw attitude that comes out in the song. It has a very bluesy type of sound. It has backing singers, lots of cool guitar licks. This one also has a very funky type of sound. I thought it continues the album very well. Bleed It Dry is next, and they slow down the pace for this one a bit. You can hear some harmonica playing on this one. This one has a very raw, bluesy attitude. This was a pretty good song. It was not one of my favorites, but so far the album does not have any weak songs. Flesh Wound is next. This one had an interesting sound. It reminded me of a little of the band REM. I know they were one of the influences from back in the day. There was something about the guitar tone. It had a very bright tone. This was also mixed with some classic rock and roll. This was another upbeat and energetic song with a hard driving drum beat. I thought this was one of the better songs from the second half of the album. The song also has a piano-based interlude in the second half of the song, and I thought it added a nice touch. Follow the Moon brings back those dirty, distorted bluesy guitar riffs that were more prevalent on the first half of the album. I really like the guitar sound in this song. It also has a very memorable chorus. The main guitar riff is very repetitive, but it doesn't take away from the song. The guitar riff sounded like something that could have been written back in the 70s. I really like the guitar solo backed by the bass guitar. Although this one was kind of brief, overall this was one of the better songs on side 2 of the album. We finally come to the last track on this album, and the song is called Kindred Friend. This was one of the more laid-back tracks. You could even call it a ballad, or if you want to call it that. This has a very relaxing blues rock tone with some harmonica playing and acoustic guitars being strummed. This one, again, I keep saying the same band name, but it reminded me of that Rolling Stones song, Waiting on a Friend. And I could also hear a Tom Petty influence on the song, especially in the harmonica playing. I thought it was one of the better songs on the album. Now for my final thoughts, I really enjoyed this album. To be honest with you, I wasn't expecting this. It was nice coming back to this band. I was listening to them, and I haven't listened to them in a long time. I think it's really been a while since I listened to the first 2 albums, and I know they've released more albums after that, but I never got around to checking them out. I'm interested in seeing what they're all about, but this was a really good album. It brought back the sound I remembered from the first 2 albums, so my score is going to be an 8.5 out of 10. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and check out this video next. The most recent album review from the Rolling Stones called Hackney Diamonds. I thought that would be the best match since they were one of the influences. So that is all. Thanks for watching. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the next one.